Hey guys, Jamie the Summer Rain channel, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to make a whipped soy candle. So I'm absolutely in love with the way that this wax looks when it's whipped on top. It really makes the candle look delicious, which is weird to say about a candle, but it absolutely does. I did put the full recipe for this down in the description box below. I also put a link to my blog. So on my blog, I go a little bit more in depth about all the ingredients, why we use them, everything like that. So if you want to hop over and check out the blog, it is down in the description box below. Without further ado, let's go ahead and learn how to make a whipped soy wax candle. So real quick, I want to show you how to figure out how much wax you're going to need for a candle. So typically I reuse jars or I find jars and I use them for my candle making, and I don't really know how much wax I'm going to need. So on this one, I'm not going to fill it up all the way because I'm going to pipe the top. So I really only want to fill it up to about here. What you want to do is go ahead and fill it with soy wax until about right here. Okay, so I filled it to the point where I want the wax to go with soy wax. Put that off to the side, and I'm going to fill it up again. Now this time I'm going to go just a wee little bit less than where I want it to be. So pretty much a container and a half of what you want in soy wax will pretty much get you to where you want to be when it's melted. In order to see how much fragrance oil I'm going to need, I'm going to have to see how much wax I have. So I'm going to put an empty container on here. I'm going to tare my scale so it's all zeros while I have the container on here. And then I'm going to pop my soy wax in there. And I have 4.63 ounces. So if I'm going to do a 10% fragrance oil in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 0.46 of an ounce of fragrance for 4.63 ounces of soy wax. And then I'm going to go ahead and weigh out my fragrance oil. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and grab your candle wick. Sometimes it won't be all the way straight, so I just like to kind of straighten it out with my fingers. Take your glue gun, put just a little bit of hot glue on there, and we're going to put this in the very center of the candle and just push it down. Now you don't have to use hot glue. There's little sticky things they make, or if you have glue dots, you can use those also to get your wick in your candle. You just want to make sure that it's in the very center of the candle. Grab your pouring pot. This is what we're going to heat our wax in, and we're going to put our soy wax in there. So what I do is I just grab a saucepan. I have this little silicone mat that I cut. I place that on the bottom of the saucepan with a little bit of water, and then we're just going to set our pouring pot right on that, and then we'll pop it on the stove like this. I'm going to heat this on a slow to medium heat until it's all the way melted. Now if you are coloring your candle, which is completely optional, go ahead and add your colorant right now. If you're not coloring it, go ahead and skip that step. When you pull this off the double boiler, be sure you wipe the bottom of the container off with a washcloth. That way you don't have any water on the outside of your container. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to check the temperature. And I'm at 175.6. So this is fine to go ahead and add my fragrance. We will just pop our fragrance oil in there. And then when I put fragrance oil in, I'm going to mix this really good because I really want to make sure that the wax gets an opportunity to bind to the fragrance oil. So I'm going to mix this probably for about a minute. I don't know that you need to do it for that long, but I just really like to make sure it's mixed up really good. Now that this is mixed up, go ahead and grab your candle. And when you're pouring the wax, you're going to want to pour kind of slow. So I find the best bet is just to do a really slow pour, and your candle just sets up better that way. Now, as you can see, I have a little bit of extra wax, but this is about where I want it to be. And I have a little bit of wax left over in case if I have to fix the top of this candle. Sometimes you get tunneling and other things. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a Sharpie and I'm going to use this to hold the wick in place. I'm going to allow this to cool completely and then I'll be back. So typically Candle tops don't pour this good. I was kind of hoping it wouldn't so I could show you how to do it, but it did pour really well. So I'm not going to fix the candle top. If for some reason you have some tunneling or if it's not perfectly smooth on the top or anything like that, what you're going to do, just heat this back up. It's not going to take long to heat up, and just re-pour the top again. Since I don't have to worry about this, what I'm going to do is go ahead and clean this pouring pot out so I can start on the whipped topping. Now the way that you clean the pouring pot out is I'm going to go ahead and melt this wax really quick. So once I have this heated up, what I do is I just grab an old wax tart container and I'm just going to pour the mixture in there. This way I can use it for wax melts and I'm not wasting it. It also gets most of the wax out of my pouring pot. Once you've done that, come in with some paper towel and you're going to wipe out all of the remaining wax that's in your pouring pot. Now to finish our candle off, what we're going to need is a little bit more of the soy wax. For the piped part of the candle, what we're going to do is just pop some soy wax into our melting pot. Now the candle's going to be white on its own, but I really wanted to try some of this white colorant, so I'm going to pop just a bit in there. You necessarily don't need it. I just want to see how it turns out. And now we're going to heat this on the double boiler. I just went ahead and pulled this off the double boiler. To our melted wax, we're going to add our fragrance oil. And we're going to give this a really good mix. Like I said, whenever I add a fragrance oil in, I like to mix it for about a minute before I consider the fragrance oil fully mixed in. This container I'm not actually going to mix in here with the hand mixer because I don't want to do anything to scratch it or damage my pouring pot. I'm actually in love with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this into a mixing container. Now by no means do you need one with a pouring spout. This is just my favorite mixing container. We're going to let this sit and harden up just a little bit before we do anything with it. What we're going to do now is assemble our piping bag. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off a little bit of the corner. And then we're going to see if that was good enough for our piping tip. And it was. If it's too small, just cut it a little bit more. If it's too big, really you need to get a new baggie. And we're going to use this to pipe the candle. Now you can actually use a piping bag, but I don't like the cleanup when I'm done, so I just use the baggie. And I put my baggie inside of a cup. I just feel like it's a little bit easier to get our wax mixture in here this way. So I've let this sit for a little bit. As you can tell, it's got a little bit of a film on the top, but it's not all the way hardened. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to loosen all of the stuff up around the edges. And can you see there it's a very soupy consistency still? I'm going to grab my hand mixer, and I only have one of the mixers on here because two just won't quite fit in my container. And we're going to mix this up. Now every now and then when you're mixing, just come around and kind of get any of the spots off the bottom or off the sides where it might be hardening. And now you can see we're a very smooth consistency, but we're still not to where we need to be. So this is still far too thin. So as you can see, it's still a very thin consistency. It's not holding its shape at all. So we're going to keep mixing this until it thickens up. So I've been mixing this probably for about 3 minutes. Now it's really going to vary by like the temperature of your house and all of that, but it's not thick enough. So when you can see it's like consistency of maybe a whipped cream, but when I create a peak, it just kind of falls over. So it's not quite holding its shape yet. So we're going to have to keep mixing. So I've been mixing this for a little while. As you can see, it's very thick. Every way that I put this wax, it's going to hold its own. It's like a cake frosting right now. So what we're going to do is go ahead and put this in our piping bag. And you're going to need more wax than you think. So I tried to do this with 2 ounces of wax and it wasn't nearly enough. So I went ahead and put 5.5 ounces of soy wax in here. Okay, so that's better. When I was going to pipe this, all of the wax was going in between the baggie. So I just took a little bit of tape and kind of taped the baggie onto the piping tip. Now what we're going to do is just grab our candle. And we're going to go ahead and pipe the wax in there. And there is your piped candle. If at any point you don't like your piping, just scrape it off and pipe it again. I would recommend when you scrape it off, like wipe the edges, come in with like a paper towel and kind of clean that up before you repipe it. Now, I don't think I'm a very good piper, so I'll normally come in like a couple times and repipe it because I don't think I do it good enough the first time. Now there will come a point when your wax is going to get too cold to pipe, so keep that in mind when you're doing it. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoy making your whipped candle as much as I did. Just know that I know sometimes when you're piping, you really want it to be perfect, and it can be a bit frustrating in the beginning. If you mess up and if nothing is working, reheat the wax and just start over and do it again. I know I did this one a few times because, like I said in the video, I'm not the best piper, but I really wanted to look a certain way, and I am absolutely in love with the end result that I got, so I'm happy that I repiped it and I didn't leave it just meh. I'm glad I really just made it lovely. Bye!